What is going on, Odds Squad? Just Bleed MMA, and we got, yes, another episode of The Odds Whisperer here on Odds HQ and odds.com. And I tell you what, we got us a card this week, boys. UFC 252. Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier 3. Wow! The trilogy will come to a finale. The career of Cormier will come to a finale. I thought even possibly the career of Stipe Miocic may be coming to a finale. Not the case. He says he's going to continue to fight, win, lose, or draw. But really, it's all on the line. Is this the most important fight in UFC heavyweight history? I would argue that yes, it is. So let's get into it. Very, very, very important fight. Incredible card. I can't wait. I get goosebumps just thinking about this fight. Adrenaline rushes when I think about this trifecta, this trilogy coming to an end. Let's start it off, baby. First fight of the night. One thing, man, I feel like I got to point out is look at that poster, boys. I mean, that just gets me fired up. That's got to be one of the best posters ever. The trilogy ends here. And look at their faces, man. They both look awesome. I love this fight. I can't wait. Let's get into this first fight of the night. So, first fight of the night, we got Christopher Daukaus going up against Parker Porter. So, Christopher Daukaus, newcomer. Both guys are going to be making their UFC debut, but Christopher Daukaus, the brother of Kyle Daukaus, who just made his debut about a month ago. Not a bad debut. He did lose that fight, but he actually did put some pretty good damage on a guy like Brennan Allen. But let's talk about the bro here. And I'm going to call him the big bro because Christopher Daukaus, this is a big dude, a big heavyweight. Not necessarily frame-wise the biggest dude, but homeboy's carrying some weight. Both guys are really, really carrying some weight. So as it sits right now, we got Christopher Daukaus. He's the plus 130 underdog. And the comeback on Parker Porter, he's the minus 160 favorite. We look at the age. We got Christopher 30 years old, about to be 31. We got Parker at 35 years old. Both guys are hitting the upper limits, 250 to 265. So some real heavyweight action here. 2 inches of height for Daukaus, and we don't know his reach, but I'm going to imagine it's not too far off the 74 inches, which is where Parker Porter's coming in. So let's take a look at Daukaus here, see what he's done on his way to the UFC. So he's training out of Martinez BJJ. Got a win over Danny Holmes, knocked him out a minute 30 seconds in. Pretty quality win there, albeit a 4-4 guy. Lost the fight to Azuna on Yanwu. Got knocked out in the late into the second round. And I got to say, I went and watched this fight just because I was so unfamiliar with this guy. So Azuna was in the UFC. He fought on Contender Series once, and then he fought in the UFC and lost. I want to say it was a split decision to Justin Ledet. So that can kind of give you a good parameter on the talent level of Azuna if he's going to lose to a guy like Justin Ledet. I will say this, though. In this Azuna loss, Daukaus was doing pretty good. He dominated the first round, landed a knee, and actually sat on Yanwu down. I mean, you look outside of that, he's won a lot of fights. You got to go all the way back to 2015 to get to his, last loss, which is an Americana. I feel like this guy's like his brother quite a bit. Wants to put you up against the cage, wants to grind on you. So a pretty good style all in all. I think he's probably going to win some fights. I'm not sure if this guy is what I'm going to consider full UFC talent. The UFC heavyweight division is not necessarily the most talent-loaded division. I'm thinking he can probably win some fights, including this fight against Parker Porter. But let's look at Parker Porter. So the first thing that jumps out is Parker Porter, 10-5 guy. I mean, this guy, for every 2 fights he wins, he loses one. So as of recently, late 2019, he did get a third-round KO. I watched this fight. It was a pretty good fight. This guy has a pretty good gas tank for being a heavyweight. So I was expecting him. When you look at the physique on this guy, I'm like, wow, this guy might only have 2 or 3 minutes in him. He actually had pretty good output until they got into the third round where he slowed down, but even then he still found the KO, TKO. Previous to that, Kimura, round 2, Kevin Sears. We have a L against Keith Bell, a 500 guy, but let's look at it. It's illegal shots to the back of the head. Keith Bell didn't legitimately win that fight. It's just the illegal shots that got him the W. We got to go all the way back to 2013 before we find a legitimate loss where this guy got knocked out by Josh Dickman, a 12-5 guy. But we're all the way back in 2013 at that point. We go any further, a loss to Gabriel Gonzaga. That's 2011. One thing I do want to point out is this guy actually lost a fight to the GOAT, John Jones, early in his career. It was all the way back in 2008 when John Jones was just a 4-0 guy. Parker was only 2-0. How crazy to fight somebody so early in your career and go, wow, I fought the greatest of all time, albeit before anyone knew that was the case. So as this fight's listed right now, like I said, we got Daukaus as a plus 130 underdog to a minus 160 Parker Porter. Man, this is a tough fight to get a read on. I'm really not sure who should win, how. I don't really have a strong read on this fight. I don't have a strong lean. In my personal opinion, I do feel like these odds should be fairly close. So to see a plus 130 dog and a minus 160, I'd probably like to see that line a little bit closer. But to be honest, I don't have a clue who money's going to come in and for what reasons. I think maybe people will start jumping on Daukaus just because his brother's in the UFC, but his brother doesn't have a win either. But like I said, he did look good at moments. I really don't know what to think about this fight. Let's look at the opening odds, though. So this fight opened up. It opened up right. We got Daukaus plus 125 to Parker Porter minus 165. So really no movement. I'm not sure if anyone really knows who to bet on in this fight, and I don't know how you could pick one of these guys to win. Maybe you think Daukaus has the jiu-jitsu, the grappling game to win this fight, but, Parker Porter's done fairly well when he's been in a dominant position on the ground too. So not a strong read. I definitely need to watch more tape on this fight because I can't even give you guys which way I would even begin to lean on this fight. I feel like it's pretty much a coin flip. Both guys debuting in the UFC, both guys heavyweights with legitimate enough power. I don't know what to say about this one. All right, next fight of the night, we got TJ Brown versus Danny Chavez. So TJ Brown, downtown, 14-7 record. Another guy who for every 2 fights he wins, he loses one, and it came back to haunt him in his last fight against Jordan Griffin. He fought a great fight. Literally, I would have to say was winning every moment of the fight all the way through the second round until he got caught with a weird guillotine. Jordan was really out of position, but just had a good enough squeeze to put TJ out. But like I said, it was a fight that TJ Brown was dominating up to that point. So Danny Chavez, the Colombian warrior, he's 10-3, 3 wins in a row, couple L's previous to that. We got TJ Brown coming in as the minus 205 favorite here. Danny Chavez plus 175. TJ Brown going to be 3 years younger, going to have an inch of height, and we do not yet have the reach on Danny Chavez, but from the tape I've seen, he doesn't look to have a real crazy reach. So let's look at TJ Brown. 14-7, quite a few L's, you know what I'm saying, and a disappointing one in his last fight. Okay, so that was his UFC debut, his last fight. Had a good win on Contender Series. Got the arm triangle. I feel like that fight wasn't necessarily pure domination, though, kind of a back-and-forth affair where he eventually found the triangle. That's what TJ Brown wants to do. He wants to use that jiu-jitsu. He wants to take the fight to the ground. He wants to maintain that top position until he can find something like an arm triangle choke. Let's look at this. So his last win, arm triangle choke. His win before that, head kick KO. So shows he does have some striking skills. Win over CJ Hunter, a sub 500 guy, did get the arm triangle. Then we got another head kick. So the guy is bringing a head kick KO as a viable weapon here. A loss to Cody Carrillo on the regional scene. That's a bad L, man. That's a really bad L. Got knocked out halfway through the first round to a guy that's 13-16. So you definitely have to wonder, is this guy susceptible to eating big shots? And I got to tell you what, in this matchup, it could pose a problem. And then previous to that, we're all the way back to 2017 where he got an arm triangle choke over Peter Barrett, who we saw last Saturday get absolutely dominated by Yusuf Salal. So Peter Barrett, strong suit, definitely not grappling. No surprise there that TJ could get the arm triangle there. So, but like I said, man, this guy's lost a lot of fights. Does seem to be warming up, though. A lot of those L's he took early in the career. Let's look at Danny Chavez, the Colombian warrior. So His last fight was in, wow, mid-July, so not a lot of time off, and he got the first round KO. And I watched this KO. Pretty legit, pretty good stuff. His win previous to that against, I'm going to say this guy's name's Pipe Vargas. There's no way this guy's name's Pipe. So he got the head kick KO there, round one. Another win against Leandro Magalhães, first round knockout. I mean, look at the pattern here. I did watch a little bit of tape on this guy, and I got to tell you guys what, man, this guy's got some crisp striking, some serious speed, and I do think he will have the striking advantage in this fight. Let's see here, though. We got 2 L's in a row, unanimous decision to Adi Alic, who was a 5-1 guy, but we're getting all the way back to 4 years ago now, and an L to Jason Soares by guillotine in the 5th round, so really deep into the fight there. But again, we're 4 years back. I mean, this guy's obviously grown quite a bit then. Look at the knockouts he's racked up, albeit not to the best level of competition. Yeah, so for me, I feel like this fight, Danny Chavez, if he has an advantage, is probably going to be in the striking, but TJ Brown's got a few knockouts in his own right. I'm not so sure. I'm absolutely going to say TJ Brown should have the advantage on the ground. I think what's going to probably be the telling factor in this fight is going to be the takedown defense of Danny Chavez, and I honestly don't really have a barometer. I don't have a gauge on that yet. I haven't watched enough tape, so I'm really not sure. We have TJ Brown right now, the -205 favorite. Let's take a look and see where they opened up at, see if we've had any movement. So TJ Brown, according to Best Fight Odds, opened at a -195 to Danny Chavez +155. So it looks as if a touch of money has come in on TJ Brown, but I got to tell you what, it actually looks like the Tapology odds aren't so up to date. According to Best Fight Odds, you can get TJ Brown anywhere from a minus about 195 at the worst to a -170. So it appears the public, people who are getting their money in early, are seeing some value on Danny Chavez because, like I said, TJ Brown not near that -200 number anymore. So interesting movement there. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. I need to see more from Danny Chavez. Hard to get a read on a guy making their UFC debut. Some guys step it up a level, really shine. Other guys, man, they get those octagon jitters and they just don't get it done in that first fight. So it'll be interesting to see. But I probably have no problem where this fight stands right now. Danny Chavez, looking back at his record, I didn't see too many submission victories. TJ Brown, he's been susceptible. He got choked out in his last fight. I think TJ Brown should be the favorite here, albeit I feel like I don't have the full scope of the fight yet figured out, but I have no problem with TJ Brown being the favorite here. And if you're going to bet TJ Brown, I guess maybe buckle up, sit back, and see if money continues to come in on Danny Chavez. At the same time, if you're going to pull the trigger on Danny Chavez, you might want to do it sooner than later. It's trending. Right now, it's trending. The money's coming in on Danny Chavez. So let's move it right along here. We got next. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. We got Felice Herrick going up against Virna Jandiroba. So, Felice Herrick, the little bulldog, going up against Carcara. Don't know what that translates to. If somebody knows the Portuguese, let me know in the chat. So, we got Felice Herrick, 14-8. Yet again, another fighter that almost exactly statistically loses one fight for every 2 fights she wins. And she's actually on a 2-fight losing streak. Coming off, I believe, some surgeries and a big layoff. And is also about to be 36 years old. I mean, I'll keep it real with you guys. I don't know a lot of other 36-year-old strawweights. Red flag alert. So, let's take a look here. Virna is 32 years old, so of course Felice is going to be older. Virna, not exactly young, though. Right now we have Felice coming in at a +220 underdog to Virna's -280. Felice will have an inch of height and an inch of reach. Let's look at the Lil Bulldog's resume. So her last fight was all the way back in 2018, coming up on almost 2 years. We're just going to be a couple months off, about 22 months off. Big time layoff, especially for someone this late in their career. So took the L to Michelle Watterson. Michelle Watterson, pretty talented woman, pretty good fighter. Took the L to Karolina Kowalkiewicz in a split decision. Almost beat Karolina. You know, that actually might be Karolina's last win, and if it isn't, it's going to be one of her last wins. She really fell off a cliff, and it probably started with the split decision here, even though she got that W. Previous to that, we had a win over Courtney Casey, another split decision, but she got it done. That's taking us all the way back to late 2017, though. We got Justine Kish, unanimous decision. A win over Alexa Grasso, a young Alexa Grasso. Pretty good win there. Win over Kaylin Curran, and then an L to Paige Van Zandt. Oh, no. You can't take L's to Paige Van Zandt. But Paige, at some point in her career, looked like she might have had some talent. That's no longer the case. So, I mean, you look at what she did, man. She busted off for the talent level we have at this division, not the worst winning streak I've ever seen. Then did lose 2 fights in a row, but man, big layoff. I believe she's had some surgeries, like I mentioned previously. This is going to be tough, man. An aging fighter coming off a big layoff. We could see a steep decline here, but man, I got to tell you what, even taking all that into account, stylistically speaking, going up against Virna Jandiroba, this was never going to be an easy fight for the little Bulldog. I mean, look at Virna Jandiroba, 15-1. That only L coming against Carla Esparza. And I actually watched this fight earlier today, man, and I got to take my hat off to Carla Esparza. She went out there and fought the perfect Carla Esparza fight. Like, actually went for the takedowns, really didn't keep the fight standing much. Great top control, even times where it got a little dicey, looked like she could get swept, reversed, maintain the top position, and really just did what Carla Esparza should do every fight, which is take it to the ground, spend the majority of the round on top, make it easy for the judges to go, I'm going to give it to the person who had the control, So a great performance there by Carla Esparza. Virna was pretty game in that fight. Carla just was better that night. So the thing is, though, look at this last win over Mallory Martin. Mallory Martin and Carla Esparza aren't too stylistically different. Both have a wrestling base. The difference is Carla Esparza is just still at this point far better than Mallory Martin. And it shows. Carla Esparza could keep Virna off her, kept Virna off her back. Mallory Martin couldn't do it. Virna ends up taking the back, locks in the rear naked choke, gets her out of there early into the second round, minute 16 seconds in. Very good performance from Virna Jandiroba. Really good bounce back win after that first L in the UFC debut. So let's look back at her record here. Janessa Morandin, a 10-1 fighter, gets her in an arm triangle choke, round 2. Pretty good stuff in Invicta. Before that, a split decision win to Mizuki Inoue. Not a terrible fighter, not the best, but still got the split win. Before that, got a W against Amy Montenegro, first round armbar. Before that, Erica Almeida, 7-2 fighter, gets a split decision win. She gets the splits to go her way. Good for her. Before that, we're getting into kind of some real bum fighters. 0-1, 15-10, 3-3, 5-5. So really what we need to look at here is, the better body of work. And she's done fairly well. A person like Carla Esparza, honestly, the way a lot of these women fight, it's truly possible that Carla Esparza beats any one of these women on any given night if she fights well. She did it that night. I got to tell you what, I'm pretty impressed with Virna Jandiroba. Let's take a look and see where these odds were. She's the -280 favorite. I mean, that's a little bit incredible just because women fights seem to be so hard to predict. Crazier things happen. There just seems to be far more variables and just variance in the fight. They just seem to be a little harder to predict. We see Hail Mary arm bars from guard happening all the time. I'm not sold on it, though. Let's take a look at where this one opened up, because I do honestly think that's not too far off. So, wow, okay. Whoa, Virna Jandiroba. This fight opened up Virna -155 to Felice Herrick +125. I don't think the odds makers got it right on this one. I would have, if it were up to me, I would have seen this fight, Virna Jandiroba, opening up a -200 at the absolute minimum. But the betting public, the sharps, the people that are trying to get ahead of the game, they absolutely took advantage of that number. The money has just blasted in on Virna. I mean, we got her at some books up to a -385 now. If you hit that early line of Virna Jandiroba -155, I mean, it is women's MMA, but wow, that's probably a very strong spot, and I do expect her to win this fight. So congrats. If you're one of the early guys that hit that one, good work, because she's like double that now. I mean, you are literally not even going to get half the money right now had you bet that line early. So some serious line movement, and maybe we see people willing to take the stab on Felice. I really don't. I expect Virna. She might even get steamed up to that minus 400. We usually see a thing recently where somebody hits that minus 350 mark. They'll sometimes take steam minus 400, minus 450, minus 500. So it is women's MMA. I hope people don't get that crazy with it, but Virna Jandiroba really should win that fight, in my opinion. Next fight, this is a really good one. So we got Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda. Wow, the Burns brothers. For those of you who don't know, but come on, man, you guys are on Odds HQ. You're informed. You know that Herbert Burns is the brother of future 170 title challenger Gilbert Burns. And the Burns bros are on a tear. Both have really elevated their games, looking great. Let's get into this. If you couldn't tell who I like coming into this one, yeah, it's Herbert Burns, but we're going to get into why. So Herbert Burns, the Blaze, baby. I like that name. Daniel Pineda, the Pit. We'll talk about Daniel too. He's got an interesting backstory coming into this fight. So Herbert Burns, 11-2, the minus 260 favorite. I got no problem with that at all. Plus 200 underdog, Daniel Pineda. So Herbert, 32 years old. Daniel, 35. Pretty old for a featherweight. So we got Herbert did weigh in at a catchweight for his last fight, but he's a true featherweight. Makes the featherweight mark every time they need him to. He's going to have 2 inches of height and 4 inches of reach, which could come into play. Let's look at Herbert. So this will be his 3rd fight under the UFC banner, and my goodness, he's been great up to this point. I mean, even the Contender Series, like that was a great win over Derek Minner, who's a very game guy, very dangerous guy, Derek Minner. So comes into the Contender Series, gets the first round win, triangle choke, Derek Minner, good stuff, great stuff. Comes back, debuts against Nate the Train Landwehr, hits him with a crazy knee from the clinch, just a thing of beauty. Phenomenal knockout, man. Really good stuff. Really unexpected. You know, this guy doesn't have a lot of knockouts, if any. We can get into the record here shortly. That might be his first knockout officially. Then bounces back against Evan Dunham. I got to tell you guys, that I don't believe that was the Evan Dunham that we're used to. I do believe Evan Dunham has hit the expiration date. Nonetheless, a good win on the resume, but I'm not going to discredit it, but I do believe we've seen the best of Evan Dunham. You know, absolute domination by Herbert in that fight. Finds the rear naked choke a minute, 20 seconds into the first round. Really good stuff. So we got to go all the way back to when this guy was fighting in one championship. Took his first L to Movlid. Whoa, here we go. Khaybulaev? I think I got it. So for those of you that don't know Movlid, this guy's legit, okay? This guy's really good, and it's actually interesting. This guy took his first L to Daniel Pineda. It's actually since been overturned, but we're going to get into that. Just a little bit of a tie-in to our next fighter in this matchup. So comes back, loses a unanimous decision to Magomed Idrisov. So, man, if there's a weakness in Homeboy's game, it appears to be a Russian. You know what I'm saying? So does beat Timothy Nastyukin, who, if you guys remember, is the guy that when Eddie Alvarez signed a 1, debuted against Eddie Alvarez, actually cashed, finished Eddie Alvarez, I want to say as a close to plus 500 underdog. Huge upset right there. And that's it, man. He's won every other fight outside of that. And yeah, no knockouts like I was saying. That's why the Nate Landwehr knee was so impressive, really. Okay, so let's take a look at Daniel Pineda. And we got some stuff to talk about here with Daniel Pineda. I mean, just let's start at the record. 26-13. What is going on here, boys, mathematically? Another guy who literally exactly wins 2 fights, loses 1. Look at the math. I mean, he's had 39 fights, 26-13. 2/3 of the time he wins, but he loses 1/3 of the time as well. The guys like that usually don't find their way back to the UFC, which I say back, Daniel Pineda's been in the UFC before. So, like I said, 35 years old, but let's check this out. So, as you can see, we got 2 no contests here. Well, here's the problem. Dude was on the sauce, the good stuff. I mean, the real good stuff. Something that ends in a LOL, you know, a stanazolol, a trembolone, who knows, a deca, durabinol. I mean, it was something real potent. And he was getting real potent results as well. I mean, look at these finishes. Mavlid Khayabulev, who I just got done talking about, takes him out, leg kick and hooks, it says. 29 seconds into round one. I'm going to call that an enhanced performance. You know what I'm saying? Then goes in there against Jeremy Kennedy. Not the best fighter I've ever seen, but not a bad fighter either. Takes him out, guillotine choke round one. So he's knocking dudes out, finishing them with leg kicks and hooks, and then guillotining dudes too with that pure PED strength. So before that, did have 4 wins in a row on the more local scene, Fury and LFAs, but was dude on some stuff? Could be. I'm not going to say he wasn't, but I know for a fact he was in PFL. So takes the L to Georgi Karakanyan in Bellator. Lost by a cut, doctor stoppage. Loses to Emmanuel Sanchez in Bellator. That was a split. And then we're getting way back. You know, we're all the way back in 2014, and he lost before that. And that takes us all the way back to his original UFC run. Lost to Robert Whiteford, unanimous decision. Lost to Diego Brandao, unanimous decision. We got a win against Justin Lawrence. He hit the Kimura, the L to Antonio Carvalho, and an L to Mike Brown. I mean, the UFC gave this guy, you know, a good chance, but he ended up losing 4 out of his last 5, and they cut him loose. So, but look at that. This guy debuted all the way back in 2012, you know. So he's had a lot of fights since. He's had mixed results. Here's the thing you got to ask yourself about this fight. Do you rate Daniel Pineda higher because he's recently been on performance-enhancing drugs and you believe that he's going to have some staying power? Are we still going to see a slightly enhanced version? Or has he been off the PEDs enough now that we're going to see a far diminished version than when he had them actually coursing through his body like he did in the PFL? And to answer that question, I'm not totally sure. Here's why. We don't really have USADA right now. Is there a chance Pineda said, man, I can fight in the UFC and not have to deal with USADA? I'm going to make that phone call to the doctor. We're going to order up some good stuff and get in there and whoop Herbert Burns. I don't know, man. It's a really tough call. I would tend to lean that he's not going to look as good. This is one of those fights where I think weigh-ins are going to be very important. If the physique of Daniel Pineda is looking very enhanced, that might be a red flag. If he's looking far more human, a little more normal, a little more average, that's probably going to be very telling as well. I tell you what, I like where this fight sits at right now. Herbert Burns, absolutely on fire. Tapology lists him as the minus 260. Let's see if I can find where he opened up at. So that makes sense. That makes sense. Herbert Burns opens as a minus 200 favorite. Daniel Pineda, the plus 160 underdog. It's been all Herbert Burns action. We got him closing minus 285, the best you can get him at about a minus 230. And excuse me, when I say closing, we're nowhere near closing. He's going to take even more steam. I will about guarantee that. That's just where he is right now as it stands, which we're still 6 days away from the fight. So a lot of time to see some line movement. I would almost bet you Herbert Burns at a minimum ends up a minus 350 favorite. We might even be looking at something a little crazier. I would advise, if you're going to bet Herbert Burns, the sooner the better. I don't see money coming back on Pineda, like I said, unless we see a real freak physique at weigh-ins on Friday. Okay, another women's MMA matchup. We got Livinha, the Brazilian gangsta Souza, going up against Ashley, the Spider Monkey Yoder. I love an original nickname like the Spider Monkey. So let's talk about the Brazilian gangster, Livinha Souza. Did lose her last fight. She's 13-2. Right now she sits at a minus 155. She is the favorite. She's 29 years old, 5'3". Okay, so that's interesting. That's interesting. Ashley Yoder is going to have 4 inches of height, at least as it's listed, and she's going to have 3.5 inches of reach, which is interesting to me, man. I figured these women would actually be a lot physically closer in size, but looks like Yoder should have some size on her. Yoder is 7-5, did lose her last fight, put together a couple wins previous to that. She is 32 years old, getting up there. Not too old, but, you know, these smaller weight classes, we don't have a lot of women in their mid-30s. You know, she needs to get it done now. Let's take a look at the resume of the gangsta. So, last fight, a year ago, she's been off a year. I'm not sure if she's had surgery. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that. I feel like I do remember hearing rumblings of something, but I'm not totally sure. Either way, it's been a year off. Took the L to Brianna Van Buren. Brianna Van Buren, pretty good. You know, they call her the Bull for a reason. She did lose her last fight, but against a very rejuvenated Tisha Torres. And I say that with a little bit of shade. Okay, so previous to that, gets a split decision win over Sarah Froda. Took Sarah Froda's Sarah Froda was undefeated previous to that. So split decision, but Sarah Froda, I don't know, mixed bag. Some fights she's good, some fights she's not. I will say this though, Sarah Froda failed a drug test after this fight. So is there a chance she beat a Sarah Froda who was on PEDs? Could have, which makes the win maybe a little more impressive. Beats Alex Chambers, the first round guillotine. Beats Janessa Morandin, but now we're into Invicta. Gets a dub over Ayaka Hamasaki, first round with punches, and then takes an L. But it was a split decision to Angela Hill. And as we know, man, Angela Hill, don't get me wrong, it's 2016 Angela Hill. I feel like she's got a lot better since then. But Angela Hill is not an easy out, you know? So look at the losses she's taken. Angela Hill, Brianna Van Buren, I feel like it does also speak to the level of competition she's losing to. You know, the Hill was a split. Maybe she won that fight. I have to go back and watch it. I think she did clearly lose to Brianna Van Buren, but I do feel like she's definitely game. I think she's going to beat most women in her division. And I honestly would put Ashley Yoder probably below both the women she's lost to, if that means anything to you. I mean, 7-5 record, Ashley Yoder, which I got to be honest, man, when I cracked into this card, I go, wow, I did not remember Ashley Yoder being 7-5. Thought she had a little bit better of a record than that. Not good, man. Really not good. Let's look at it. So, lost a split decision to Randa Marcos. Again, these women, man, they just, I don't know if it's a fighting to your opponent's level of competition type scenario that we see some men suffer from. Just seems so much more common in the women. They fight so close. I mean, look at this. We got split decisions all over the page here. I mean, so loses the split to Randa Marcos. Randa Marcos is pretty good, but then again, look at Randa Marcos' record. She's almost 500. Is she that good? I don't know, you know. Beats Yuri Kondo by unanimous decision. Split decision win over Amanda Cooper, who was 3-4 at the time. Okay, loses to Mackenzie Dern. That's not surprising, but kind of is another split decision, a fight that was way closer than I think anyone imagined. I think a lot of people thought Mackenzie Dern was really going to blow through her. It got very dicey for Dern at times. I mean, Spider Monkey was winning some of that fight, as seen by the split decision. So takes the L to Angela Hill. They both have that in common. Both have lost to Angela Hill. Loses to Justine Kish, not the best fighter. Beats Amber Brown, but now we're back to Invicta. Loses to Kate Jackson, an exhibition fight on the Ultimate Fighter. So take it a ways back. You know, look at the level of competition she's losing to. Look at who she's winning against. I got to be honest, man. This doesn't strike me as a fight that should be this close, really. Like, if it were up to me, I'm feeling like Livia closer to that minus 200 range probably makes more sense. Let's see where they opened. So they opened up. Whoa, okay. So, wow, this is very interesting. So Livia Souza opened as the minus 250 favorite. Ashley Yoder plus 195. Money has absolutely flowed in on Ashley Yoder. And I wish I could tell you guys why. I'm not sure if people think Ashley Yoder is going to have a grappling advantage. I don't see her having a striking advantage. This is one that I need to go back and watch some tape because the betting public is seeing something that I am not. I mean, I would have Livia, like I said, I would have opened Livia at more of a minus 200. They opened her at a minus 250, and she's been blasted down almost a full dollar. That's crazy, man. I don't know. Maybe there's something I'm not picking up on here, but that's really surprising to me. If you are confident in Livia, I guess sit back and watch. Sit back and continue to watch as this line might get closer. I'm actually I don't know what to think about this fight. I'm just very surprised by these odds. I will say this, if you're going to bet Yoder, you may have missed the boat. You could have got her almost plus 200. Now she's like a plus 120, plus 125, you know? I guess if you're going to pull the trigger on Yoder, you might want to do it now. Maybe we see a bounce back and money come back in on Livinha. I don't know, though. This one's very surprising to me. You know, I know we're only 2 episodes into this show, but as of right now, this is definitely the most surprising line movement in my mind of any fight we've encountered up to this point. So, like I said, I'm going to watch some tape. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I just really don't know how people are that confident in a 7-5 fighter in a women's MMA matchup. Oh, well, let's keep it rolling. Next fight of the night, we got Jim Miller going up against Vince Pichel. Wow, Jim Miller, 32-14. Apparently his nickname's A10, but I don't ever hear anybody call him that. 36 years old, going to be 37 in 2 weeks. 37-year-old lightweight. Does it matter? He doesn't seem to care, man. He just keeps winning. Even won his last fight against Roosevelt Roberts. Big-time underdog. Tip of the cap. I salute you. If you had the balls to bet Jim Miller as a big underdog there, you did the right thing, man. Just too veteran, just too savvy for Roosevelt Roberts. Great win. Boy, Roosevelt Roberts blew, including my own, about every parlay out there on that one. So let's get into this one, though, before I give Jim Miller too much credit here. So right now, these guys are dead even. I mean, I believe this is the first dead even fight we've talked about on the Odds Whisperer. Jim Miller, like I said, 37 years old. Catchweight last fight. This one's going to be at 155. He is going to be giving up 2 inches of height to Vince, and he's going to be giving up an inch of reach. So these guys are very similar sized. Vince from Hell, Pichel. Great nickname. Love it. 12-2 guy. Won his last fight. Did lose the one before that. Here, my mind just got blown. Vince Pichel, older than Jim Miller. What? Man, think about that. A 12-2 guy that's older than Jim Miller by almost a full year. Unreal. So let's look at Jim Miller here. Like I said, these guys are dead even. Nobody has a clue. Flip a coin, boys. Pick one. If you're right, you're getting close to even money. Okay, so the win over Roosevelt Roberts, first round armbar, great performance. The loss to Scott Holtzman. I got to tell you what, I think a lot of people thought Scott Holtzman was really going to put it to Jim Miller. That was a close fight. Jim Miller almost won that fight. Very good showing, all things considered. Beats Clay Guida, guillotine choke, 58 seconds into round 1. Another really good win. Clay Guida is still another really old guy, but it's a guy that's really tough to get out of there. And to finish him that early into round 1, quite impressive. Win over Jason Gonzalez, rear naked. I mean, if you can't tell, Jim Miller's game plan, submission. Okay, I mean, can we find a knockout? We're going to have to go back a ways. So, win by rear naked over Jason Gonzalez, gets rear naked by Charles Oliveira, gets a win over Alex White, rear naked, round 1. My guy gets in there and gets it done. Look at these wins. Round 1, round 1, round 1, round 1. Gets knocked out by Dan Hooker, eats a knee. That happens. Dan Hooker, real tall, real long. Jim Miller, not a tall guy that actually has a tendency to duck down low. Hooker saw that and fed him a knee, put him out bad. A loss to Francisco Trinaldo, a really high-level guy, Trinaldo. A loss to Anthony Pettis, former champion. A loss to Dustin Poirier, interim champion. And then wins over Thiago Alves, Joe Lozon, Takanori Gomi. But we're getting all the way back to 2016. It's actually crazy to me. Takanori Gomi was still in the UFC in 2016. Lost to Diego Sanchez, lost to Michael Chiesa. We're 5 years back now. A lot of this isn't going to really play in. But look at the level of competition. Lost to Beneil Dariush, lost to Donald Cerrone. Man, he's fought about everybody. And one thing that stands out is, you know, he's one of those guys that I feel like if you're above a certain level of competition, he's probably going to lose to you. But if you're below it, he's going to beat you almost every time. Where do we put Vince Pichel here? Oof, tough call. This guy's not active enough. Let's look at this guy, Vince Pichel. He's had a wild career, and I need to pay attention here to the time off because I know there's some gaps here. There just has to be for a guy with so few fights that's 37 years old. So won his last fight against Roosevelt Roberts, so they both have that in common. Both whooped up on Roosevelt Roberts, both as big-time underdogs against a much younger guy. don't have faith in Roosevelt Roberts when he's a heavy favorite. So took the L to Gregor Gillespie, arm triangle. Gregor Gillespie, very good fighter. Hadn't even taken his L to Kevin Lee up to that point, so not too surprising there. Went over Joaquim Silva. Joaquim Silva, big power guy, not a terrible fighter. Pretty impressive win, really. Went over Damian Brown, knocked him out in the first round. That's impressive. Went over Anthony Njokuani. Is what it is with Njokuani. Went over Garrett Whiteley, whoever that is, all the way back in 2014. So there you go. Right here's the big one. So 2014 to 2017, 3-year gap. I mean, this guy missed out literally on the entirety of his early 30s. You know, was under contract, just didn't fight. Was it injury? Was it other things? I'm not totally sure, but he seems to be coming back, and he's been much more active. Well, not a whole lot. I mean, it's going to have been a whole year off since his last fight, so I'm not sure what the deal is. Probably need to look into it. Maybe give the social media a peep, see what he's saying, see how he feels. Real tough to get a read on an old guy who's missed out on a lot of time. So his L's previous, Rustam Khabilov, and then lost to Ally Quinta on the Ultimate Fighter, but that was literally 8 years ago. So, I mean, look at these losses. Rustam Khabilov, Gregor Gillespie, both guys can grapple their ass off. I got to keep it real, though. Can Jim Miller grapple? Oh, boy, can he. Do I expect Vince Pichel to have a striking advantage? Perhaps. I think he probably has the bigger power. But, man, I have absolutely no problem with where this fight is lined right now. Dead even. I don't know if the public's going to have a strong read on either side. Let's see if we can see any line movement here. Oh, wow. Okay. This is actually pretty interesting here. This is surprising. So, the bookies, the odds makers, open this one up. Jim Miller, the minus 180 favorite, to plus 140, Vince Pichel. I don't agree with that, man. I think that the public, the betting public, have corrected this line. Right now, we're looking at a dead even pick'em. When you take everything into account, I kind of feel like that's where this fight should be. I mean, that's a full-on correction right there. I just can't agree with it, man. So as it stands right now, everything has trended Vince Pichel, but it does appear that when this fight opened, it was hammered immediately on the Vince Pichel line. Now that they're even, it appears things have really stabilized. I think we're probably going to see this fight stay relatively close to even, probably all the way up to fight night. Unless something emerges, people start saying something strange in an interview, someone looks terrible at weigh-ins, I would imagine that by the time this fight goes off, they will still be close to even. And I just think that's a straight up correction by the betting public right there. The bookies were a little bit off in my opinion, but right now where this fight's sitting, probably perfect. All right. That takes us up to, oh boy, the rematch of one of the weirdest fights you'll ever see. A fight that has taken months to finally bring together. UFC 252, we're getting it. And I believe, is this going to be the first fight on the main card? I believe it is. We'll go back and look at that. But we got Magomed Ankalaev versus Ion Cutelaba 2. Before we even get into it, you know what? Let's not. We'll get into that when we look at the records. So we got Magomed 13-1. Minus 300 favorite, the Russian. This guy has what they call a Master of Sport. It's literally a governmental award, a governmental certification that you are of the highest level in a multitude of disciplines. I believe he is a Master of Sport in Sambo. I believe he's a Master of Sport in wrestling. I could be wrong on the second one. I know he's a Master of Sport in Sambo, but I believe this guy's got that designation in a couple different disciplines, which is really something to behold. So he is 28 years old. Wow, prime of the career. Super impressive dude. 6'3", 75-inch reach. Training out of Goretz. We've got a couple other guys coming out of Goretz that are doing pretty well right now. Russia, looking pretty good right now, man. I'm definitely loving the Russian invasion in the UFC. So, Ion Cutelaba, 15-5, the plus 230 underdog, fighting out of Moldova. Again, another guy, 26 years old. Surprisingly young. I mean, this guy's been in the UFC for years now, still only 26 years old. And I'll be honest, I am an absolute huge Ion Cutelaba fan. I love this guy's pure aggression. I love his style. I love the big power. When he wins fights, it's emphatic, awesome KOs. When he loses fights, it's something else. But let's get into this one, man, because I got to talk about this matchup because the story of the fight's absolutely in their first matchup. So we got the last fight. Apparently, Ankalaev wins by punches 38 seconds into the first round. Now, I'm guessing most of you have seen this fight. Earlier this year, February, what is there to say about this fight? So, first off, let's start even before the fight. Ion Cutelaba walks, as he's being announced, fully across the length of the cage, walks straight through Ankalaev. I mean, walks through him so disrespectfully. Where the officials were to keep him from doing that, I'm not sure. But they escorted him back to his corner. But you knew before this fight even started, it was about to be insanity. You never could have guessed how crazy it was going to be. So the fight kicks off. I want to say Ankalaev is just like spamming head kicks. And Ion is kind of, if you want to call it a rope-a-dope, but you want to call it like some Anderson Silva antics, he's doing like a crazy sway where he's acting like he's hurt, like he's legitimately hurt on his feet and doesn't have balance. I feel like that was all pure acting, though. Now, don't get me wrong. He's blocking the head kicks, but they're kind of also getting through at the same time. I don't truly believe he was hurt. He's so weird and like playing it up and wobbly on his feet. I can't remember what referee it was, but the referee stopped the fight believing he was truly hurt. He wasn't. That was some acting, I think, to try to get Ankalaev to be a little more open, a little more sporadic, a little more frenzied in his attack, because Ion Cutelaba wants to get you inside, get in close, get in the pocket, and just throw bombs. That's the Ion Cutelaba game plan, throw bombs. I tell you what, though, we've seen the guy bust off some pretty good takedowns and some pretty good wrestling. I think he has it. I'd like to see the guy go to it more. He definitely is not going to want to go to that in this fight, though. Ankalaev will absolutely have the wrestling advantage. So you look at the resume of Ankalaev. The guy just wins. I mean, he beats everybody. One exception, Paul Craig. Look at the time. 4 minutes, 59 seconds of the third round. If the dude could have kept himself from tapping one more second, he would be undefeated, because I got to tell you guys something. He would win that fight 30-27, maybe some 10-8s in there. He was dominating that fight. The absolute incredible buzzer beater Hail Mary by Paul Craig, the only blemish on his resume, on his astounding resume up to this point. Unreal, Paul Craig. Paul Craig, the Hail Mary king. I mean, it's just unreal. So let's look at Ion Cutelaba. 15-5, did lose the fight to Magomed Ankalaev, but, we went over it. Kind of a travesty. They had to run it back. It was so strange. We finally made it 7 months down the road. So before that, we got a win against Khalil Roundtree. Elbows from Mount took him down. Dominant top position. Just really worked Khalil Roundtree. I want to say Ion was the dog in that fight because Khalil had looked really good in his fights leading up to that fight. I got to tell you what, I was on Ion in that one, bet on Ion, loved it. He fought really good. It really seemed like a step up in fight IQ, because to stand and trade with Khalil's, not the path of least resistance, you know what I'm saying? So previous to that, the L to Glover Teixeira, rear naked in round 2. I feel like when I think about this fight, it was a fight that Ion was winning, but Glover Teixeira does what he does, lets you get exhausted, beating the crap out of him, then eventually drags you to the mat and submits you. It's the Glover Teixeira game plan. How it works consistently, I don't know, but my goodness, that old man is really getting it done lately. So before that, the win over Gazimarad and Tigulov. Take from that what you will. And Tigulov, not a great fighter. So wins that one, punches and elbows, round 1. Gets the win over Luis Henrique da Silva, 22 seconds into the fight, round 1. Takes the L to Jared Cannonier, unanimous decision loss. Not a bad L. Jared Cannonier, really, really good. And then before that, we got a win over Jonathan Wilson and then an L to Misha Cirkunov. Cirkunov takes him to the ground, arm triangle choke. So if you haven't noticed, it does appear Ion Cutelaba, the weakness on the ground. Is he even going to have an advantage standing here? I mean, he probably hits harder, but I feel like Ankalaev's probably the more precise striker, probably the better striker. Minus 300 favorite. I don't know about that. Can't say I disagree with it fully. Let's see where they opened up at. Whoa! So Magomed opened minus 360, which I'm just really not sure because when we look at, wow, so I guess when we look at the first fight, Magomed actually opened as a minus 400 favorite. So Magomed actually opened up a bigger favorite in the first matchup, but so much money came in on Ion Cutelaba by the time they went off. You could get Magomed at like a minus 238. So that's interesting. I guess people thought Ion probably had the puncher's chance there. And if anybody has a puncher's chance, it's Ion Cutelaba. He hits probably as hard as anybody. So right now, we've got the same trend. You know, Magomed opens minus 360. Closing range, he's at the minus 330 to even minus 300 range. Money's come in on Ion Cutelaba. So I guess if you want to bet Cutelaba, you're still getting a lot of meat on the bone at a better than plus 200 range if you feel like that's the play. However, if you want to bet Ankalaev, maybe he's bottomed out. When I look at the graph, the line movement, it does appear to be moving back and forth. If you can get Ankalaev better than a minus 300, I'd say probably get on that sooner than later. I don't see it getting much better than that. I absolutely don't see Ankalaev getting below minus 250 like he did in the first fight, but he could. I mean, we didn't see much in the first fight. Fight definitely should not have been stopped. We really don't have much to go off in that first fight. Interesting matchup, though. I definitely agree with Ankalaev being the favorite, though. He's just got so many more paths to victory in so many more ways. I mean, Cutelaba, he just really have to surprise me with the wrestling for it not to be the puncher's chance KO there. So let's keep it moving right along. We are up to, and yeah, that was the first fight of the main card. So we got John Dodson versus Merab Dvalishvili. Pretty interesting matchup. John Dodson, 21-11. Another guy, 2 wins, 1 L. And you look at even recently what he's done. That's the case, totally. So he is 35 years old, almost 36. I mean, come on, man. I talk about it all the time. That cutoff at bantamweight. He's 35 years old. Now, don't get me wrong. He won his last fight, albeit to a pretty young and green prospect. But this dude's days are numbered. John Dodson's days are numbered. Mark my words. So he is 5'3". He's a plus 155 underdog, first off. That makes sense. Merab, I definitely agree with being the favorite here. So 5'3", Merab will have 3 inches of height, and Merab will have 2 inches of reach. Merab's 11-4, the minus 190 fave on a good win streak. Let's look at Dodson's resume. So he's fighting out of Jackson Wink. Got the win over Nathaniel Wood. Lost to Petr Yan. Lost to Jimmy Rivera. Those guys are both very good. The win over Pedro Munoz, another really good fighter. Split decision. That's in 2018. Takes the split L to Marlon Moraes. That was a close fight. He fought very well. Beats Eddie Wineland. Loses to John Lineker. Gets the win over Manny Gamburian. Came very close to having he actually did at one point have a very strong win-loss trade-off thing going on before he ended up taking those 2 L's. Man, Dodson. I mean, savvy vet, but I got to tell you what. I like Merab Dvalishvili a lot. This guy has improved and is just on fire lately. I'm actually a little bit surprised this fight is as close as it is. I feel like Merab should be the favorite, but I think I understand, and I'm going to touch on why. So he is 11-4. Got the win over Gustavo Lopez, late notice replacement. Definitely needs to win that one. Win over Casey Kenny. Win over Brad Katona. Win over Tyrion Ware. He's got wins, but not over the best guys. Lost to Ricky Simone, a fight that was very strange if you saw the ending to that one, a fight that he probably was going to win on the scorecards. And then a loss to Frankie Saenz. It was a split decision. So another very close fight. He's losing close fights, and if not, winning. So this probably will be a step up. I have no problem with where this line is. The takedown defense of John Dodson's very good. And Merab Dvalishvili, that's really just what he wants to do. I mean, he's the machine. You know what I mean? He's looking for takedowns. He just wants to take you down and be in top position. You know, it's the most dominant thing. It's the hardest thing for the judges to screw up. If they see somebody get taken down and laid on for 5 minutes, how do they get it wrong? They do sometimes, but makes it much harder for them. So I would have Merab at probably a minus 200, which is kind of where he's sitting right now. This line I don't disagree with at all. That makes quite a bit of sense because I do think Dodson's going to be harder to take down and to keep down than a lot of the people Merab's been up against, and Dodson could surprise us. Let's see where this opened up at. Wow, so Merab opened as a minus 170. So the money has come in at Merab. You know, he's right now minus 200 to that minus 175. Money's coming in on Merab. I would imagine he's been a money train for quite a few people. I think Merab will probably take more steam. But if you're on the Dodson side, I get it. He does have good takedown defense, like I mentioned. But if you're going to bet on Merab, probably going to want to pull the trigger sooner than later. Okay, we are up to, whoa, big boys banging it out. We got JDS versus Jarzinio Rosenstroik. So, Cigano, 21-7, it's on a 2-fight losing streak. Uh-oh. Plus 130 underdog in this spot, 36 years old. Oh, my God, it's almost surprising he's only 36 years old. I mean, is he on the tail end of his career? Is he done? Oof, tough to say, but really, 36 years old, he should have a lot to give us in the heavyweight division, but my goodness, this guy's taking a lot of damage. Is it starting to show? It could be. It could be. I mean, the dude's on a 2-fight losing streak. So, Jarzinho Rosenstroik, Biggie boy, 10-1, did lose his last fight to Francis Ngannou. Up to that, he was undefeated, did get blown through. He's the minus 160 favorite, 32 years old, young dude in this heavyweight division. And he is 6'4". These guys, in the words of Mike Goldberg, virtually identical when it comes to the measurables. So let's look at what's going on here with JDS. Which one thing I gotta say is, man, go look at JDS's Instagram. He's looking in a real good shape. Might be something to that. Not going to go that far yet, but he's looking to be in very good shape for this fight. So, loses to Curtis Blades. Not surprising. Curtis Blades, young up-and-comer on a tear. Great fighter. Loses to Francis Ngannou. Not surprising there either. Another absolute freak monster. Gets the win over Derek Lewis in March of 2019. That's a legit win. You know, Derek Lewis just last night looked pretty good. Win over Tai Tuivasa. He should definitely win that fight. Tai, not that great. Win over Blagoy Ivanov. I want to say that was a fairly close fight. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong. I can't remember. I need to go back and watch that one. Loses to Stipe. Gets knocked out in the first round. Win over Ben Rothwell. Lost to Alistair. We're all the way back in 2015 now. I mean, the win over Stipe, we're talking pre-USADA at this point. Lost to Kane. And that is pretty much it. You know what I'm saying? So you look at who he's losing to. It is the absolute best of the best. Is Jarzinio Rosenstroik the best of the best? I'm not so sure about that, guys. I am not so sure. Biggie boy, what's he done? Loses the last fight to Francis Ngannou, 20 seconds in. That Ngannou train came rolling into town, rolled right over him, KO'd, so flush. Just a crazy flurry. What are you going to do? That'll happen. It's Francis Ngannou. Gets the miracle Hail Mary win over Alistair Overeem, a fight he absolutely was going to lose if the fight had gone 4 seconds longer, straight up. That fight was lost on the scorecards. Gets the win over Andrei Arlovski, knocks him out in 30 seconds. Knocks out Alan Crowder, 10 seconds. Knocks out Junior Albini, 54 seconds into the second round. Here's the problem. Junior Albini, Alan Crowder, that's not UFC level. Andrei Arlovski, impressive win. The win over Alistair Overeem, a fight he was losing the whole time, kind of a miracle Hail Mary, kind of not the greatest win. I mean, he got it done. If you had that ticket, he cashed. Although you sat there for 20 minutes going, I can't believe I put money on this guy against such an experienced veteran. You know what I mean? So, does lose to Francis Ngannou. Like I said, that happens. Man, this is an interesting fight right here. I'll be honest. My lean in this one, I think JDS should be slightly favored. I really do. I think JDS should be the favorite here. Now, don't get me wrong. Is he getting knocked out? He is. Can Jarzinho knock him out? Oh, yeah. Is JDS savvy enough, slick enough, going to have good enough defensive striking to avoid one of those big winging shots? Yeah, I bet he probably will. This is only a 3-round fight. He only needs to stay sharp for 15 minutes. I'm definitely leaning JDS here. And as an underdog, could be a good spot. Let's see where these boys opened up at. So they're pretty much right where they are. Jarzinho opens the -140 to +110. Junior Dos Santos. It closes right now, or excuse me, as it stands right now, we got Rozenstruik -165 to -145. Looks like that money, well, it has a touch. A touch of money has come in on Rozenstruik. You're getting JDS at better odds. Maybe sit back and watch this one. Sit back and see if things continue to trend that way. It appears that it was early money and things have stabilized quite a bit. I'm not so sure, man. Junior Dos Santos should have the name recognition here, which will usually pull in some of that casual money. This could be one of those fights where these odds sway back and forth. I'm not really sure. I'm guessing things are probably not going to get too wild. It's probably going to be pretty close. Dos Santos could still be an underdog by the time the fight goes off. I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up close to even, though, if a lot of people come in, we get some touts, we get some smart, sharp guys on YouTube saying, hey, JDS at underdog odds. I like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the needle move back towards even money or close to a pick 'em. But you can get JDS at plus money right now, and I kind of like it. Okay, we are up to the co-main event of the evening, which I wasn't even aware this was the co-main event. I don't know if this has been bumped up to co-main or if it always was. But wow, what a big spot for Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera. Impressive stuff. Sugar Sean O'Malley, undefeated 12-0, the -315 favorite. Yet to taste defeat, 25 years old. Such a young dude. 5'11", he will have 3 inches of height on Marlon. And he will have 1.5 inches of reach. Marlon Chito Vera, 17-6, did lose his last fight, albeit a little bit controversial. We'll get into that. Before that, a very good win streak. Him and himself, 27 years old, prime of his life, young dude, a lot of growth. We're seeing that growth between fights. I really like what I'm seeing out of Marlon Vera. This guy's really, really good. Wasn't sold on him earlier in his career. He has really evolved into a really good fighter. So Sean O'Malley, Sugar Sean, a fan favorite, which that alone is going to bring in money on this guy. I'm going to tell you guys right now, he's a steamed favorite right now. This guy's going to end up -400 at the minimum. I feel it in my bones. The fans love him. They love betting on him. People love even putting the big money straight bets. They love putting him in as a leg of a parlay. The money will come in on O'Malley, whether it's deserved or not. So, knocks out Eddie Wineland. You've seen the clip. Knocks out Jose Alberto Quinones. You've seen that one as well. Gets the win over Sukumtat. That was a long time ago, though. Did have the USADA issue. Wow, he's really grown in that time off. This guy is finishing fights and looking great, doing it. Where can you knock this kid? I'm not sure yet. And when you look at the way they're matching this kid up with the fighters they're giving him, the UFC is trying to build this kid up because if there's a place to expose him, it's probably going to be in the wrestling. They keep giving him strikers, and Marlon Vera absolutely falls into that mix. This fight's going to be sick, okay? They're going to go off. It's going to be a stand-up war. I will almost guarantee it, unless Vera realizes, hey, this kid's real slick on the feet. Let me try for a sub. So, last fight against Yadong Song, I got to keep it real, man. I think Vera might have won that fight. It was a very close fight. I think Vera probably won that fight. Beats Andre Ewell, ground and pound in the 3rd round. Noel Hernandez, rear naked. Knocks out Frankie Saenz. Guido Canetti with the rear naked. Luigi Byrne with the body punch. Loses to Douglas Andrade and John Lineker. Both are big-time power dudes who can really crack, and both are pretty good fighters. But, 27-year-old guy, those were a few years ago. He's grown a lot. Man, if you are on Marlon Vera, you're going to get him at very, very good plus odds. Like I said, I just think the money's going to continue to come in on the hype train, the kid that the casuals are falling in love with, which is Sean O'Malley. So if you're going to bet on Sean O'Malley, I would say jump on now. Let's look at where these odds opened. Oh, yeah. Sean O'Malley opens as a -230 favorite, currently anywhere from that -350 to -300. If you're betting O'Malley, you need to pull the trigger ASAP because, like I said, the kid will be -400 come fight time. I'll take a bet on it straight up. People love this kid, so there you go. At the same time, if you're on Vera, buckle up, sit back. I'm expecting even better plus money by the time this fight night rolls around. Okay, we did it yet again, baby. The Odds Whisperer on oddshqodds.com. Hit that subscribe button. Hit those notifications. And then when you're done, go over to my channel, Just Bleed MMA. This Friday after weigh-ins, I'll be giving my final picks, okay? Did pretty good last week. You're going to want to check that out. So let's get into this main event. Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier III, the trilogy, the trifecta. So, Stipe Miocic, oh my gosh, these guys are dead even. Who's going to win this fight? I don't know. So, Stipe, 37 years old, almost 38. Like I said, I wouldn't have been surprised if he were retired after this fight. Says he's not going to. I believe him. 230 pounds, which is worth mentioning because both guys are heavyweights that fight at the 230-pound mark. Seems to be where the best heavyweights sit. Interesting factoid, right? 6'4", going to have 5 inches of height on Cormier. We know that. Going to have 7.5 inches of reach on Cormier. We know that. Everyone's got height and reach on Cormier. He is a little dude for a heavyweight. Not even 6 foot tall. So, Stipe, what do we got? I'll tell you what we got. All this dude's done the last few years is fight Daniel Cormier. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look at it. Last 2 fights. So, last fight against Cormier. I got to keep it real. I think Cormier was winning that whole fight. I think Cormier was on his way cruising to a unanimous decision victory where he was going to win almost every round. Probably had 3 rounds on the scorecards. I need to go back and watch the fight. Don't hold me to that. But from what I remember, Cormier winning the whole fight. Stipe finally, through phenomenal coaching and cornering, realizes we need to start investing to the body. Continuously hits Cormier with that left hook to the liver. I mean, it was a body shot. More precisely, though, it was a liver shot. Finally hits Cormier with a very damaging shot. Puts Cormier on skates. Hurts him real bad. Just gets him up against the cage. Puts on the pressure. Fires off a 10-15 strike combo. Cormier crumbles. The fight's waved off. Stipe Miocic is yet again your UFC heavyweight champion. Previous to that, Daniel Cormier gets knocked out 4 minutes and 33 seconds into round 1. Again, a round that I felt like Daniel Cormier was doing a very good job winning up to the point. Ends up eating a huge shot in the clinch. Very well pulled off maneuver by Daniel Cormier when he threw the arm behind and essentially pulled Stipe into that punch. Huge power from a round 1 Cormier. That's going to put some people to sleep. You know what I'm saying? So previous to that, though, went over Francis Ngannou. Strategically perfection to be able to go out there, give Ngannou that first L in the UFC, that is. Just a great strategic fight. Ate some really good shots from Ngannou. It's almost shocking Cormier knocked him out, being as he could eat those shots from Ngannou. Went over JDS, went over Alistair, went over Fabricio Verdun, went over Andrei Arlovsky. Serious tear on his championship run up until Cormier hit him with that big shot. Do we even really need to get into Daniel Cormier here? I mean, it's the same story. I mean, it's just the inverse. What has he done? Well, he's been fighting Stipe Miocic, but he does have a Derek Lewis interjected in there. Went in there, did the thing against Derek Lewis, kind of toyed with Derek in that first round, ended up taking the fight where he needed to, got Derek Lewis on the ground, found the easy rear naked, got him out of there painlessly, said, give me Stipe Miocic one more time. So, here's how this fight plays out for me, guys. We really don't need to look at any other fights. You know what I'm saying? We have the perfect example. These guys have gone at it 2 times before, right? We know who's who. We know what we're getting here. Here's the thing for me, though. When I think about this fight, up until probably the last 2 minutes of that 4th round where Stipe finished Daniel Cormier, I truly believe Daniel Cormier had won every round of this matchup. Now, don't get me wrong. He finished him in the first round. Obviously, he won the round of the first fight. I think he was winning the fight up till that 4th round. Now, Stipe, you gotta give him his props, man. He made the adjustments. He did what he needed to do. He finished the fight. But I do believe he was on his way to losing. Here's the other factor, though. Daniel Cormier is so old now. That cliff is coming. Have we hit it? Oh, man, I hope not. I really hope not. I hope that this was not a strategic play by Stipe to try to wait out Cormier. And he's done it. You know, he's really pushed this fight back. Don't get me wrong. We got the whole pandemic, a lot of stuff. You can't really blame it on Stipe. The one thing I hope is that we don't see a dramatic drop-off in the performance of Daniel Cormier. I mean, this guy was old when they fought the first time. Now he's really, really old, and I am concerned. And I think if you're on Stipe, your biggest sticking point probably is that Stipe finally figured out how to beat Cormier, and Cormier's just that much older now, you know? Let's take a look at where this opened up at, and let's take a look at where they opened up previous to this. You know what I'm saying? So this opened up, they opened dead even. So the odds makers go, we don't know who's winning. We don't know. Flip a coin. Both guys open as a minus 110. Cormier, it appears, has taken more money because he's sitting at a minus 120, but we're still so close to that minus 110. It really hasn't been much. And when you look at the graph, it's been, I mean, one way, the other, but at the same time, still just right on that opening line. We just haven't had a lot of movement. So in their second matchup, Cormier opens as the minus 150 favorite. And when the fight went off was a minus 160 to minus 135. So some books had him bet up more. Some had him at a little more value where money did come in at Stipe, who ended up at that plus 105 to plus 130 range. But in the initial meeting, the first time these boys got together, we had Stipe Miocic opening up as the favorite at minus 170 to Cormier's plus 140. So, wow, man, crazy fight. The rare trilogy, the rare championship trilogy where guys are sitting at absolute even money. Take your pick, boys. I'm going to lean Cormier. Maybe he's too old. Maybe I'll change my mind, but as it stands right now, I got to rock Team Cormier. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like he's probably going to come into this fight, use a little more of that clinch work that worked so well in the first fight, put this fight up against the cage, not fight Stipe at distance, hopefully use some takedowns, hopefully use that wrestling base. But I don't know. Like I said, you want the final picks? You got to get with me on my YouTube channel, Just Bleed MMA, this Friday after weigh-ins in the afternoon. I will have the final picks. But as it stands right now, I don't know, man. You guys are going to have to make up your own minds. But there it is. We did it. UFC 252, the second episode of The Odds Whisperer. We got a lot of people in here watching this show, man. Thank you guys so much, man. It's been an outpouring of support. Thank you for the comments you've left behind. Thank you for blowing up the chat. And thank you for the positive feedback. Thank you for the negative feedback. I love it all, baby. You know we're about that algorithm. Leave them comments. I love every single one of them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to Odds HQ. This is the Odds Show. You said we want picks. We got picks for you all week, baby, starting tomorrow. Die Hard MMA podcast. Tuesday night with the boys. Thursday night, Friday night. We're hitting you from every angle on Odds HQ, the home of MMA betting. That's right, I said it. You know what? Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, you want those final picks, head over to my channel, Just Bleed MMA. I will have those for you Friday. If not, best of luck. Let's cash this money. Let's win these bets. It's what it's all about, baby. The Odds Whisperer, Just Bleed MMA. I'm out of here, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching.